Indeed.
Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, Claire. How are you? Good morning. Sorry.
Yeah.
Good morning. Yes. Fell at the last hurdle. How are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm feeling a sense of relief as we are at the last live here for 5 days. I feel excited because it has been such a journey, and I feel just immense happiness, and also feeling really proud of us, like proud of everyone supporting us, proud of us doing it.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, likewise. I feel fairly jubilant. It's been one hell of a week over here in England, and we're here on the last night. I've loved the challenge, and yes, thank you for the immense amount of support that you have given me through my unforeseen circumstances that I've dealt with in this week. And we are here, and it, it's imperfect, and we don't know what the rollout is. We don't know what the effects are going to be, but we've done it. We've shared our thoughts. We've shared the approach up to this point that we have been trained in, how to approach nature engagement and connection. And yeah, it's fantastic. I am feeling a little bit almost stir crazy. It's like, yay, it's the last one. And so yes, thank you so much for enticing me into this in the first place, Claire. I've loved it, and I look forward to the next time we work together, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
So we are on the final step, the final piece of the process of nature connection. So nature release. Obviously, the title, the name, doesn't really give much of a clue as to what it is. Would you care to share your interpretation, your approach to what nature release is?
Okay. I think, the word that I want to go into is release. So if you want to release something, there must be something being stored, right? So then where is it stored, right? So I want to start with, I can't really separate in terms of what and where. What in this context of 5-day exploration is we're talking about our individuals' strong negative emotions. We all have our human conditioning, our deep-seated and familiar patterns of thinking that we have. But with my personal experiences, and also when I look at other people's and clients' patterns and behaviors, we store our emotions in our bodies. And when it comes to natural release, we are releasing all this back into the earth, back into the natural world. It's like when we breathe, we're breathing oxygen, and then we release the carbon dioxide. And again, it's just how we are, I guess, how nature supports us. I like to think of it this way. And when it comes to natural release, it's unlike any of the other 4 topics we have covered this week. They are natural presence, natural body, natural attractions, and natural communication. All these 4, say, require an individual to actually go outside into the natural world or play with an indoor plant to actually do it. But when it comes to the natural release, we're going, okay, well, I've been doing all right, and now I want to release it, right? Hey, but it doesn't work that way. Now you can just take a moment, and it is like the final leap of faith, but it isn't, because when you have done so many preparations before the final stage. The next one is you can't rush it. It's like the harvest. You can't rush it. And but it's like, okay, I can't rush it. It's out of my hands. And then what am I going to do? To answer that question, I think it's almost like you can answer that question, but also at the same time, you can't answer that question because you can check, okay, natural release. What are the signs of natural release, for example? Because to know that it is out of your hands, it's okay, but you know that it's going to happen. So what are the signs? And then if you don't have the signs, then what can you do instead, right? So let's get into the signs first. So for me, with my observation, myself and others, the signs of natural release I have observed, including a lot of tears, like when you're crying. Sometimes just little streams. Other times it's a big, good cry. And when it comes to crying, again, you've come so far. And if you feel appropriate and feel safe to give yourself a cry, just cry. Because you've come so far, you do not want to store all that energy of your tears back into your bodies again, right? And then yawning. I think when I said the word yawning, actually it makes me think about when we're tired, right? When we're tired, we yawn. And sometimes when we just get up and then we yawn. And after yawning, we actually feel better, right? So it's a very similar, to me at least, process. Is that how our body helps us balance? But in this case, it's a balancing from your strong active emotions or balance of emotional well-being.
Can I ask you a question at that point? Just springs to my mind about the signs. I mean, the yawning and the shaking and all these kind of things. Are they? Do you feel that they are a byproduct of the release that, in their own right, have no benefit, no purpose, as in they are just a thing that happens, as part of a process? Or do they have an importance in their own right as signs to us? Do you see what I mean?
I'm just going to let that question to sit with me for a bit. So the second part of the question, you're asking whether they are signs and they're actually beneficial to us rather than being a byproduct. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, I think they are present. They are there. They happen. And for it struck me that when you were explaining about the signs, it's very useful for us to be able to spot the signs that natural release has happened. However, as those signs, if they didn't exist, if the symptoms of natural release weren't so obvious in some cases, we wouldn't necessarily know from a physical point of view what we are experiencing, but we might still feel better afterwards because natural release has happened. So I mean, to me, for example, the thing about the release is that you were saying about negative emotions, and it's washing away, it's taken away, it's released, obviously. So that alone, obviously, is one of the major things about this whole process, is that it helps you reconcile and act in a way that's most beneficial through the taking away of those conflicted emotions. So the fact that there are physical signs is curious to me. I mean, for me, I was quite skeptical about natural release. But when it was pointed out to me that shaking, So shaking and yawning. I know, obviously, we all shake. We all get too cold. We all shiver. We all yawn. Well, I assume most of us do. Now, for me though, the yawn that I experience when I am seeing it as a symptom, or when I realise it's a symptom or a sign of natural release, that yawn, it feels like my entire head is opening, and it's the biggest yawn, and I can't help but my jaw just going. It's almost like I'm being possessed, and something's about to, come out. It's like, my God, what's going on? And the shaking, similarly, is such a focused thing that it is very, very different from a normal yawn or a normal shaking because I'm cold or whatever. So to me, in the way that my body expresses natural release, it is that obvious. But why? What, I mean, is it just to help us know that we are releasing, or?
I cannot go down to the bottom of the whys, but when I think about my past experiences of those dramatic releases, when I had those dramatic releases, the signs are like my body was actually shaking. I was like, I've done the natural releases at a not so deep level. I have observed the signs, but these are definitely something different. And when I experience those more obvious signs of my arms really shaking, I think I've noticed times where I feel my brain, I feel my neuroplasticity, if you like. I could actually feel the sensations in my brain. It's like it's reconnecting and changing, reconnecting and changing. I'm not kidding. It's actually true for me.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. And actually, in answer to my own question, I'm beginning to wonder if it's almost like going into short circuit, or it's that period, the transition from moving from the old neural pathways into the new. And if it has happened, and I'm not entirely sure about the science behind this, whether I suspect that we cannot change neural pathways quite so immediately as that's quite so quickly. So I wonder if it's a recognition in our, at some level, subconscious or otherwise, that a shift, a new view is there. And it's just like oh, okay, yeah, I'm here. Because I mean, some of these times that I've experienced the yawns, and the yawns for me, the shaking, I feel like I'm sitting in a cult discussion talking about, speaking in tongues and writhing on the floor. I feel like, it's like, okay, yeah, let's not take snippets out of this one out of context. However, times when I've just been, processing situations in my head, on my sofa, probably in the middle of an advert break, watching TV. And then I get one of these big yawns, or a series of these big yawns. And I think, oh, that was unusual. And then I go back to what I was thinking about just before the yawn. I think, oh, hang on. That was one of those moments when I've just kind of gone, oh, yes, a change in view to the situation, or a different aspect of view onto the situation. And then these yawns come. So I wasn't actively involving in nature connection at all in the slightest at that time. However, by accident or by without design, should we say, without design, the situation has been such that a shift has happened. And so I find myself doing that head stretch yawn when my pop it on my sofa. And so the symptomology, is that a word? Maybe. The symptoms of this, the expressions of this. I suppose I am demonstrating to myself the fact that I don't know the ins and outs of this at all by a long chalk. I've got no idea. But where I am is that I am noticing things that work. I'm noticing things that can describe and nudge me to notice, oh, something just happened.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, we were talking about the constant exploration, push the boundaries, be curious, find out, be open-minded as to what is going on and what your body is telling you. I think fits in nicely there. However, I did hijack your answer, Claire, so
that's okay. Yeah, I
handing
mean,
back to you.
To again, I suppose, to wrap up the answers of your question from my end, I think it's when you see the natural release, okay, our humans view would be, okay, this is the end. But no, then then you come back to the full circle and becoming aware, right? Because all these symptoms are signs so that you can become more aware of your body, so that you no longer go, okay, I'm angry, but I'm not aware. It's just part of the process, right? To help you become more aware. So now that you are becoming more aware of the healthy signs, so it goes back to natural presence, if you like, natural body. Right. I mean, all these topics we've covered previously, they all involve a level of awareness, right? So to me, it's just this nature just works very gently, steadily, and is just one of the aspects of bringing awareness. And of course, it's once you have all these releases, to me, I feel I love my body more. Look what my body is capable of doing, right? Shifting all this stuff, right?
Well, of course, your body in particular has done tremendous stuff, right? Getting rid of cancer is quite a feat. So, you have that, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's, for me, it's like, okay, because people's relationships with their bodies, we're not diving into this during our 5-day, because I feel, wow, it's like opening a Pandora box. What's your relationship with your body, right? It's going to be so personal and so deep. But when you have nature with you, like, okay, I don't need to solely focus on my body, because my body perhaps is just feeling this is too intense, right? Because when we just want to purely use our body to release without the support of nature, I think a lot of strong emotions can be really intense and hard for us to release. It's my personal experiences, but when I go and ask for nature and sometimes the earth to support me, the negative emotions just release. Like they're just watching your how the time goes, like the one of the I don't know how to express it. It just feels like the wind just passes through. There's no resistance. It just goes. So again, it's bringing back that contrast of the capacity of our bodies by itself alone to process all this stuff in our bodies. And also when you have something bigger, the earth to me is a body. It's like the other identity of my body, the ecological body, if you like. So that when you connect with that and you go, earth, go, no problem. It's just like a little grain of rice for me. I'll take that. Right.
So another thing that's popping up in my mind about natural release is it only, what is it reserved, or is its function rather? Is it purely to integrate and process negative emotions? Is there a positive nature release? Or is it is it purely about taking, processing, and dumping?
Very interesting. I think there are various aspects of natural release, because people can go, okay, natural release, I have released, and then that's the end of the story, right? And I do not need to do any more for the day, which could be quite okay because people's lives are complicated. But I think you're bringing a positive point. And to me, once you did the release, then what's next? It's like, okay, you've removed all the barriers, all the cloud, all the noises in your own system. And now nature, when you are ready, nature is ready to give you the next moment of clarity. People often don't utilize that. But I think in coaching, and if people are familiar with self-coaching, and if they've got that time and that moment when they're ready, they can ask themselves, so, okay, I've released that. And then if I want to go back into that situation, if consciously I know what I am releasing, if consciously I know what I am releasing, if I know what I was troubled with that particular situation, then now what message nature wants to bring it to me? So what's the solution that I can proceed? So then that comes to the positive aspect of natural releases. It's not all about negative, it's about our evolution, isn't it? So to me, it's the transformation is not just limited to the negative aspect, is about also then there's a growth, what's next? Because people can quite easily think that natural release is about the past, isn't it? I mean, it can be the moment because your body is really in the moment, but it can be a past event, unpleasant event, or whatever.
I think that it has the appearance of laying things to rest, or dealing with and processing barriers, negative emotions, all this kind of stuff, which obviously in its essence it is entirely positive, because of course processing and integrating those negative emotions and those barriers allows you to be more present in a more authentic way and less troubled by the doubts and the questions that you have got rid of. But what I suppose was in my mind is that, say for example, you're not taking a question into nature as in, what am I going to do? How am I going to deal with this situation? I have no idea. I need your help. I need support. I need some signs. I need something. I don't know what it is that I need, but I need something. I am in deficit. And then in that respect, you're going through the process and getting the insights and reflections, and then the release of letting go. It makes a lot of sense, and it's very complete in that process, in that pathway. But think about it. We don't always go into nature with problems, of course. We can go into nature to celebrate and to build upon our successes or our good things that we're doing and involved with. And in that point, in that aspect, how does nature release still play a part when you just go into nature just to celebrate what is going on around you and through you? Does natural release play a part in that scenario, do you think?
Okay, interesting perspective. I think my immediate, maybe obvious answer in my experiences perhaps is I cannot relate the positive aspect of natural release in the way you framed it. But if I can frame from another perspective, is okay. I come to nature to celebrate. Then of course it's when you are in a good mood, everything in your eyes become more beautiful, right? And so that to me it's not so much about natural release, it's about, okay, the beauty of nature. And you can go into natural attractions, because that to me is more relevant in terms of framing of my experiences. Okay, nature is so beautiful, and perhaps that when I come to natural communication, I can even hear nature congratulate me in a way. So yeah, so and I think it makes me really curious now that I want to ask you, when you relate to the positive aspect of natural release, what is it like in your experience?
Well, this week particularly, as I say, it has been tremendously turbulent and demanding, and not without conflict and hardship. And the times I think I spoke about or referred to yesterday, in those times of the natural attraction of my behavior, I was leaning away from conflict and just accepting the fact that, this is what I've been given, and that's what I can accept or not. I it's not a case of this isn't good enough, I need a better one, change your offer. It's like, no, this is what I've been given, take it or leave it. It's like, okay, I'll deal with that. So the release for me in that situation, that particular situation, because it's fresh in my mind, was a sense of strength coming through, that I was confident in the way that I chose to behave, rather than allowed myself to behave, because of course, the choice point was there, the decision point was there, and I chose a route of approach, and that felt good. And so the nature of release was just this absence of questions about my actions in that specific time. Another time that's the positive aspect of nature release has been apparent to me is, and again, is still linked to conflict or turbulence or uncertainty. And it was on reflection. I had again dealt with something or other, or I'd been in a situation which was potentially fractious or whatever, and I'd taken myself out into nature just to de-stress or to decompress. I wasn't stressed, and it was this like, so it was like kind of going out for walks, like, oh, okay, that's dealt with. Sat down in a place that I was attracted to, and there was always like a dropping into a gong almost. It's like this sensation of boom, and just this acceptance and the resonance of that time and the feelings that I had at that time. So that to me, and maybe it isn't nature release. So bearing in mind that we are referring to a process which has been observed, explored, identified, and written up by one person, with reference to huge amounts of scientific research and observation. So it is a very valid approach. There is always going to be more. And I doubt Tabby would say that I'd be surprised if Tabby said that she has got everything sorted out, she knows everything in her writings. So again, to me, it's just really reassuring, and it's actually quite exciting. It's like, great. People don't know the answer, so there's still plenty to discover. So every one of us on our explorations through curiosity, may well come across one of a thing, a phenomena, a way of doing things that is like, wow, this really worked for me, and I think the replication of phenomena, of processes, is pretty vital, because if it can only be done by one person, then obviously that's individual to them and it doesn't work for anybody else, then that's great for them but not for anybody else. So things like the nature process, where it is common enough, or the commonality is enough that it will work for a huge amount of people. And from that point it will grow, and it will grow individually, in the same way as a hawthorn bush in the middle of a field will grow differently from a hawthorn bush in the middle of a forest. It's the same bush, it's the same genetics, same species, different genetics, and it will grow differently, with commonalities and shared characteristics. So, that to me is very exciting, because it allows for individuality of interpretation and experience. It also obviously makes it more vague, because nobody can say, oh, you're doing that wrong. I mean, obviously there will be very glaring incorrect ways to connect with nature, obviously, don't get it. But anybody with good intent who is sincerely exploring the path to deepen their connection to nature, more than likely is going to be doing well. And even if they have been misguided, or not misguided, but if they are misinterpreting, or they are making a false assumption, for example, the intent behind their actions is driving their direction. And that intent to contribute to the betterment of us as a species and our experience on the earth and for the earth itself, surely anybody who has that intention truly is going to be contributing, mistakes along the way included, so the balance is good. So if more and more people do this, take this view, or take this approach, then it's going to be good.
I want to pick up that question that we have not fully answered. We said natural release is in the hands of nature, right? It's not in the hands of our individual. So what happens then that if people go, okay, I think I have done all the previous 4 steps, natural presence, natural body, natural attraction, and natural communication. I think I have, but natural release is not coming. I have not seen all these signs. And then what shall I do?
Relax. Pay less attention to the process. Don't think that, okay, I've done steps 1, 2, 3, 4, so 5 should happen. Try step 5 first. Try 3, 1, 5, 4, or whatever's left. It is individual, and every circumstance and situation is unique, isn't it? So farming, for agriculture, you could tell somebody how to grow crops, but if their soil type is different from the place that you're growing your crops, your advice is going to be limited. And yes, the general approach to growing that crop in a different soil type will be useful, but it won't be exhaustive in how to grow the crop in that particular soil type. So, and nature is, at the same time as being unyielding or ferocious, it can be. At the same time, it is also immensely flexible. And that is one of the points about nature in my mind, is the fact that it leaves nothing unexplored. Nature fills gaps, purely and simply. And it falls into gaps, it falls out of gaps. Accidents of genetics or behavior will determine, oh, that approach works really well. Evolution is not, okay, I'm about to walk into a point of contention here, I think. the intelligence of nature is quite a thing to think about. Personally, I feel that the collection of accidental responses that nature explores means that in balance and on balance, the evolution progresses in a life-affirming way, because the mistakes that don't work, they die out, but they don't reproduce. And it is accidental. And the effect of all of those happy accidents that work and fit the individual situation that they are in, whether that's a deep marine trench or mountain goats galloping up the side of a mountain that nobody can work out how on earth they can do it, it works. It's not, the goats don't sit down at the bottom of the mountain and go, you know what, Bob, I reckon if you take a left there and then jump really high, you'll do it. And then, oh no, you did it wrong. They just do it. And they either fall off and die, in which case they don't reproduce, or they do it and they make it to the top and then they can reproduce it, all these things. So the outcome, the overall effect is an intelligent or seemingly intelligent progression of workability. Mm-hmm. Now, if we try and reflect that pattern, as patterns do repeat in nature on various scales, etc., etc., into our individual lives, it doesn't quite sit easily, because we have this determination about us. We can project, we can work out, or we can try to work out what will happen if we do something, so we choose not to. Whereas nature tends to just chuck everything at it, and what works sticks. And that's what the evolutionary chain carries on from. So we have this facility to project and also berate our mistakes in our own individual evolution as we go through it. So the whole point about natural release and the process of natural process is, these are pointers. These are elements that are present, and if you explore them, you can use them to create, deepen your perceived connection with the external and internal nature. But again, it all comes back down to perception, because that's your perception, your understanding, how you're comfortable. So long as it feels good, and I mean that in the broadest sense. Goodness is not just about what makes you feel satisfied. It's the broader. It is good for everything that is involved with that situation. If you can truly reflect on your behaviour or your contribution to the situation, go, yeah, that was good, great. If you can't, it needs tweaking.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly a master in looking back and going, yep, that was fine. I fuck up all the time. Sorry, I said a word. Sorry, excuse me.
I want to pick up something that you said there, that it's like what we have been laying out during this 5-day. It's a process called the nature process, right? And the lady trainer, Tabitha, she's written this book. But with this process, must not be taken as a process like the machine, if you like. That, okay, you do 1, 2, 3, and 4, not necessarily in this order, but you must have number 5, right? So that's the way to perceive how a machine works. But in my understanding of how nature process work is, okay, if I do 1, 2, 3, and 4, sometimes it can work like a machine, and 5 does not happen, which is the natural release. Then I can just take apart these 1, 2, 3, and 4 parts and just go to the individual ones that I feel, okay, well, today I don't like these 4 components at all. I feel it's just, life is complicated and overwhelming today. I just like to stick with number 2, for example, natural body. And this is again just about, it's like tying to number 3, natural attractions, isn't it? Like, okay, I want to go into my natural body, but it's actually driven by my natural attractions, which can be very, very subtle. But because I'm guided by my attractions, I'm going to go to my natural body. And it's a way of deepening that individual like step, isn't it? So that it's like you said, you just got to tweak it and then explore it and then see whether it works. And as you do that, you'll see signs and experiences, and it will just be a rich resource, right? That you can build upon based on your own experiences. And you go, one day, actually, with all this tweaking and trials, I can have my natural releases a lot more often now. So you go, actually, I look back a year ago, that was really hard, and it was happened on just occasions, and now it's happening more and more frequent.
And also, I think that we need to, I would like to I'd like to, kind of impress that these are not goals.
Mm-hmm.
So if the natural release isn't apparent, then I would hate for people to think, oh God, I kind of experiencing the steps, but the natural release thing, just not getting it. Does that mean I'm being shit at nature connection? It's like, no, of course not. So again, it's like these are all observations, and Tabby's done a very good job of formulating an approach to nature connection. However, it is not I was going to say it's not the Bible. Even the Bible isn't. Okay, let's not get into that one. It is guidance based on observation and research in evidential, empirically evidenced experimentation and studies. So it's very well founded in scientific method, and it steps into interpretation as well.
Yeah.
As soon as we step into interpretation, obviously it becomes incredibly subjective, and as such, I think everyone should at that point put on the hat of an adventurer and stop looking for reassurance from anybody else, even the person that wrote a book. Because at that point, as they are exploring these uncharted territories of their own psyche, their own body, their own responses, their own feelings and sensations, no one's written a book about that, because they are the only person that has that body. They are the only person that has those experiences. So nobody else is going to be able to write a book about it anyway. So to strictly adhere to and cling to directives on a page written by somebody else, somewhere else, there has limitations.
Yeah.
And so there needs to be that point at which you let go of the side of the swimming pool and just start swimming into the middle, and find out where you get to, and find out what stroke works for you best, whether it's backstroke, butterfly, whatever. It's your swimming, it's your you're in your own pond. So yeah, I just want to be really aware that coming to this end and the end of this 5-day, if people aren't feeling that they have managed to get any natural release, well, I can't say I would be particularly surprised to go through this entire thing in 5 days. If somebody hasn't been familiar or isn't familiar with just being in nature, or approaching or viewing nature, the natural world, from that vague stance, then it will be novel, and it will be tricky.
Mhm.
So just to look for the signs of growth in the same way as, in economics, the green shoots of growth. It's like spot those. Look for the bits that have worked. Look for the sensations or the times that you were doing something throughout this 5-day period that felt good. And look into them. Look into the strengths. Look into the things that worked. Don't beat up yourself about things that didn't work, because that's just a pointless waste of time. Understanding is great, but looking for the next steps that work well. That's a wise expense of a resource, I think.
Yeah. Wow, thank you so much, Jim. And we are at the end of our last live.
But I've got so many questions to ask you, Claire.
You just have to go on live on LinkedIn and then do it again. I don't know if it was like you're just joking, but if you do, I think maybe just write them down. Don't let them slip through your mind. I'm being serious.
No, absolutely. I am serious. I do have those questions, but I did obviously ask you at the beginning of this, can we not go on too long tonight, because I do need to go and do things.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for being the timekeeper. And I would just like to say, with my celebratory pint of good cider, at my time in the evening, 10 to 10, I'm okay drinking. It's 8 o'clock in the morning for you, water. So thank you very much, Claire, for teaming up with me for this 5-day process I should drink. And I look forward to the next time. To everybody watching who's been involved, thank you so much for listening and watching. And hopefully we will do this again. Until then, carry on exploring.
Spend time in nature and bring the nature process with you, and experiment and explore. And yes, if you do want to explore further with us, just give us a shout. There you go. That's the marketing bit, isn't it? Thank you so much, Jim.
Thanks a lot, Claire. Take care, and I'll speak to you very soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.